Okay, Pamela Brown, great reporting as always. Thank you for walking us through it. Let's get some reaction now from Democratic Congressman Eric Swalwell of California. He sits on the House Intelligence Committee. Thank you for being here, Congressman, and hopefully you heard Pamela's reporting. As someone who sits on the Intelligence Committee, what's your reaction?
Good morning, Poppy, and thank you for having me back. Well, look how far we have come. You know, just about 6 months ago, we heard denial after denial that anyone in the Trump family had ever met any Russian. And now we know that not only had they met Russians, but they were taking meetings when the subject of the email was Clinton, Russia, private, confidential. We got dirt on Hillary Clinton. And Don Jr. saying, great, can we hold until the end of the summer, recognizing the political timing and how much that would help them. So there's a lot more to learn. I'd like to bring in,
Just beside there, Pamela's reporting is interesting because it is signifying that there was some knowledge among the Trump team that this was going to be about the Magnitsky Act and not about dirt on Hillary Clinton. Does that change your perception at all, politics aside?
No, the Magnitsky Act actually was about sanctions. So they clearly had an interest in working to ease Russian sanctions. But I don't think anybody believes that in the peak of a presidential campaign that the Trump team was interested in working on a adoption issue in a foreign adversary's country. This was about getting information about Hillary Clinton. It also may have been a dangle on behalf of the Russians to see and probe what the interest was from the Trump team. But I say, Poppy, bring them all before the intelligence committees. Allow us to question them and test the stories against each other, and then we can tell the American people what is the truth.
All right, let me get your reaction to the president's new message this morning to North Korea. He wrote on Twitter, as he often does, about North Korea. Here's what he writes. Our country has been unsuccessful dealing with North Korea for 25 years, giving billions of dollars back and getting nothing. Policy didn't work. Now, he has a point. I mean, as you know, diplomacy has not worked in the long term with North Korea. But this is coupled with Republican Senator Bob Corker saying that the president's being irresponsible, that he could lead us on the path to, in Corker's words, World War III. Too far?
No, not too far at all, because we're dealing with a nuclear-armed country, and the president continues to make barstool threats to an individual who I think is being pushed into a corner. And, Poppy, I'm rooting for the president here, though, you know, just as I root for the pilot in a plane. You know, we need him to succeed. So he has an opportunity to first unite the world, and I think when he goes to Asia, the best thing he can do is to sit down with the Japanese, the South Koreans, and the Chinese and show that we not tolerate a nuclear North Korea, but also to be upfront with the American people about every option he has exhausted that would require us to have military action. Because I don't believe that we've fully exhausted diplomacy or sanctions or having the Chinese put pressure on the North Koreans. It's a very erratic foreign policy right now that he's exercising.
Clearly, Congressman, you're not happy with what the word you used, I think, barstool diplomacy, the tweets from the president. But let me put up a tweet of yours that struck me from last week. Quote, an arsonist president sets fires all over the world and hopes that smoke obstructs everyone from seeing what little has been accomplished. An arsonist president. Do words like that help the perception of the United States overseas? Do words like that help Americans and America? Or are you playing into what you're criticizing the president for?
Poppy, what we have seen is that time and time again, this president, whether it's commenting on African Americans, football players exercising their right to speech, or stirring the pot in North Korea while his Secretary of State is trying to negotiate a peace, or whether it's picking a fight with a mayor who's, you know, wading in water as her city suffers from a hurricane. He just seems to want to, you know, create these little fires all over the world, all over our country. And I think it's to obstruct people from seeing that he has very little to show here in the United States. People aren't doing better. Paychecks aren't growing. Healthcare costs are not coming down. All the promises he's made are not happening for the American people.
Congressman, I hear you. I hear you, but I'm just asking about your words. I mean, you're critical of the president's words and his use of Twitter, and then you take to Twitter and you call him an arsonist president.
Yeah, well, I think we need to call this bully, you know, what he is. And hopefully more people like Bob Corker, who, just like myself, I don't think is prone to, you know, make such bold statements, is also starting to speak up, because America has had enough. We're in anxious times right now, and we have a leader who has failed to unite us. And the only other option is for its legislative leaders to put a legislative straitjacket on this president and restrict his ability to hurt people and harm people. Because otherwise, Poppy, he's leading us into World War III. He's going to be putting in place very, very hurtful immigration policies. And it's time for people who know better to step up, because we're not helpless.
Quickly before we go, because we are running out of time, on immigration, you bring it up. The White House outlined its priorities to make a deal with Democrats on DACA, right, for these hundreds of thousands of Dreamers. Topping that list, funding for a southern border wall, 10,000 more ICE officers, cracking down on sanctuary cities, stopping catch and release of undocumented immigrants. Democrats are going to have to give something. And your leadership in the party, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, say this is a non-starter. What should Democrats give?
Well, we should, hold the president to the deal that he agreed to in the Oval Office. And now it sounds like the art of the deal means crossing your fingers behind your back. He promised that the 800,000 Dreamers...
What should Democrats give, Congressman? He never said it would be for nothing.
Well, he needs to help the 800,000 Dreamers who are going to be leaving this country in the next 6 months because he has failed to help them. And he told Democrats that he would sign the DREAM Act. So he should sign the DREAM Act. What we are giving is that we will make sure that this country is still a diverse one that has 800,000 kids who only know America is their home. That is what we should give. We should not, use them as bargaining chips so that he can have, a wall on our southern border. We're not going to go for that.
All right, let's have you back, because there's a lot more to dive into there.
I'd love to come back. I love coming on.
Please come back.
Thanks,
Thank
Poppy.
you, Congressman.
Yep.
All right, chilling new details.